I love to chronicle how great companies have acquired great domain names. I do this not for the investors who watch the show, but for the entrepreneurs who are selling products or services and want every opportunity to dominate their market. A product, service, or industry-defining domain name has great benefits. This is the focus of today's show. I have 3 sponsor messages before we get into today's show. First, if you have a great domain name and nothing to show when people visit, you're missing out on potential advertising revenue, leads, and partnership opportunities. NicheWebsites.com can build you a site quickly with a price option to suit any need. But as their tagline says, they don't just build websites, they build businesses. NicheWebsites.com. Second, if you're buying or selling a domain name or portfolio and you want an estimate of its value, Estabot.com is the place to go. Just like you'd visit Zillow.com to get an estimate of a house value, Estabot.com provides key information about the most important statistics so you can make an informed decision based on data. Finally, whether you're buying, selling, brokering, or financing a domain name, you need an escrow company that's properly licensed, bonded, insured, and audited. That company is Escrow.com, and they've been doing it since 1999. Escrow.com. It's about trust. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger, and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you can learn how to become a successful domain name investor or entrepreneur directly from the experts. If you're like me, you get motivated by hearing success stories. If you can learn the strategies and tactics behind those success stories, then you can apply them to your business and improve performance. Not every tactic works for everyone, of course, but being exposed to them offers you an opportunity to leverage the experience of others without having to reinvent the wheel. That's why you watch DomainSherpa.com. And that's the same reason I watch Mixergy.com, published by Andrew Warner. Instead of featuring domain name entrepreneurs and investors, Andrew focuses more generally on startup entrepreneurs and how they got a new idea off the ground and grew it to a profitable business. In most cases, Andrew doesn't touch on how domain names have helped companies become successful, but every once in a while, he does, as we'll see shortly. As you know, I love to chronicle how great companies have acquired great domain names. I do this not for the investors who watch the show, but for the entrepreneurs who are selling products or services and want every opportunity to dominate their market. A product, service, or industry-defining domain name has great benefits. This is the focus of today's show, which is an excerpt from a recent Mixergy interview. My sincere thanks to Andrew Warner and Mike Faith for allowing me to excerpt and share the relevant parts of their Mixergy interview here on DomainSherpa.com. In this first excerpt with Mike Faith, founder of Headsets.com, Mixergy host Andrew Warner learns that Mike started his company with only $40,000 and 2 part-time employees from his other business venture. While Headsets.com was mentioned as the business name, it initially started as an offline company relying on print advertising in the Wall Street Journal for sales leads.
And then there was an issue that made you think of creating Headsets.com, or an opportunity. What's the opportunity you caught?
Yeah, well, I had some people on the phone and we had headsets and they didn't work very well. And then when I tried to get support and send them back, I couldn't get that. And, you know, based on that data point of 1, which is me, and that's usually been enough in my life to make major decisions, I thought, hey, if I can't get what I want with headsets, there's an opportunity there. So 6 weeks later, I'd started a business selling headsets.
As I understand it, the business started with about $40,000 that you gave 2 of your employees who were working at Office Time Savers, and that initial funding is what launched the business.
Yeah, that's it, $40,000, and that took us through to for about 3 years, at which point I did a very small venture round, or I say a venture round, angel round really, which was the other part of financing of the business.
The $40,000 was supposed to go where? What was the investment in?
So I bought a few computers, enough to hire people on for the first few weeks, and that was it really. The rest of it was kind of customer funded because I'd cut a deal whereby we'd pay the supplier in 60 days. But as people bought headsets, they'd give us a credit card. So the more we sold, the better our cash flow got. I can remember, I think I was about 3 months into the business, and we had about $250,000 in cash, and it was a positive cash flow business.
Even though Mike Faith's headset business had phenomenal growth, reaching $3 million in sales within 3 years, its path to today was not without a few bumps. In this next segment, Andrew asks Mike what happened and what Mike did to get the business back on the growth path.
I heard that the business, you started it. Within 3 years, you got to $3 million in sales. That brings us to roughly the year 2000. Then the business started to stagnate, and you came in to fully run the company. Now, it wasn't your side thing. It was your full-time thing. And then revenue grew. What do you do to increase revenue so quickly?
So there were a few things I did at that time. I negotiated the headsets.com domain, and I did a small A round of $625,000. I went and knocked some doors and raised some money. And the other thing I did was our focus had been a little bit more towards price up to then, and I really kind of almost overnight switched it to a very high customer service focus, where we no longer monitored how long someone was on the phone for. We just monitored what the customer thought in terms of how they rated us, and really switched around every nuance in the business to be around focusing on having the customer happy at almost any expense. So those were the three things that kind of I did over a short period.
While purchasing a category-defining domain name is not a panacea for all the troubles facing a company, Mike Faith did credit the purchase of the headsets.com domain name as one of the key tactics to turn around his company at that time. So let's turn our focus to the actual acquisition of the domain name headsets.com. Most business owners think of a great domain name for their business, reach out to the current owner to inquire about purchasing it, and are shocked when they learn the asking price. It's the same if you were to go ask the owner of a waterfront mansion in California or the owner of a penthouse on the edge of Central Park how much you would have to pay them to buy their home. But Mike Faith is relentless, and after raising a small round of funding and focusing the company to improve the customer experience, had the cash flow and ingenuity to make the purchase of headsets.com. Let's hear how.
The company was named headsets.com from the start?
Actually, that domain was owned by another company, which perhaps is where the star key was.
Maybe.
If you look back to 1997. We bought the domain in 2000. And I say bought, again, we did a 10-year lease where we paid most of it at the back end. And we've always been able to kind of finagle deals where we bridge our cash flow by paying people later and getting the customer money to come in earlier, which has been enabled us to grow without a lot of outside cash.
I see. How does that work? You offer the owner of headsets.com money every year until you pay off the ownership of it, and until you do, it's considered a lease, which actually is good for you because then you get to write off the cost of the domain all at once, every year like that.
You got it exactly right. Yes,
I
that's
see.
it.
So you get to spread the expense over all those years that you're paying for it, as opposed to putting the cash up front and getting the expense over the years.
Right, and we weren't in a position to put the cash down then anyway. But that purchase or lease of the domain as it was then was probably one of the best moves we did. It gave us a lot of credibility with manufacturers. It put us on the map, and then also as Google began to become a bigger force, and they ranked domains that are the name that you're searching for so well, it became very useful to us there. So that one paid for itself several times over, and still is.
Quick break from 3 sponsors of today's show. First, are you tired of being upsold and cross-sold when you buy or renew a domain? Then try the newest registrar, being built from the ground up with a beautiful interface, competitive pricing, and 24/7 support. Uniregistry.com will surprise and delight you. The right domain can change your life. Uniregistry.com. Second, investing in Chinese domains is crazy hard without expert native language advice. Now, as a service to the Western domainer community, TLD Registry offers ChineseLandRush.com. Using ChineseLandRush.com will help you invest in Chinese domains with confidence and without knowing a word of Chinese. Finally, if you're buying a domain name from a private party and want to know what else they own, DomainIQ.com is the tool you should be using. View their entire portfolio, filter by Esterbot value, and be a better investor. $49.95 for 250 queries per month. Visit DomainIQ.com/portfolio to learn more. So while they may have had the money to purchase the Headsets.com domain name at the time, they instead expensed the domain name over 10 years at a rate that their cash flow allowed. As Mike Faith put it, with some creative financing, they owned the category-defining domain name, which gave them more credibility with manufacturers, ranked their website higher in search engines, and paid for itself several times over. As he said, it was one of the best moves that he made. In an interview with Mike Sullivan of sullysblog.com in July 2010, Mike Faith said that they received about 18,000 visitors per week. This traffic includes type-in, organic search engine referrals, and paid advertising. In this last segment of Mike Faith's interview on Mixergy, Andrew Warner asks Mike to recall one marketing campaign that took his Headsets.com plain vanilla named company and made it memorable and appealing to the mainstream media.
You know, the silly thing that you did that got my attention was Jason Sadler, the guy who wears people's shirts. What did you do? His whole business is, I remember I interviewed him in the early days when he came up with this idea and he was actually generating revenue with it. I said, come on here and teach us. Where day one of the year, he gets paid. Day one of the year, anyone who wants him to wear a t-shirt on social media, etc., pays him $1. Day two, it's $2, etc. And then he did something wacky that you jumped in on. What did he do?
Yeah, he put his last name up for bid. So he said he'd change his last name from Sadler to what anyone ever paid him to do it for. So I remember I was in New York. My marketing guy called me from San Francisco and said, look, this guy's selling his name. I want to buy it. And I've learned the art of not always saying no too harshly. So I said to my marketing VP, I said, I'm not sure. Can you talk to our CFO about it? Thinking I know my CFO will say no. And he said, Mike, I already spoke to him. In fact, it was his idea. So I said, all right. So I thought I'd been snookered on that one. So next thing I know, we bought it overnight because it was the last night, and it was $45,500. And my phone didn't stop ringing with press wanting to ask us questions about why we did this. And I think it was one of the most interesting publicity moves we've ever done. We had a lot of press on that. It was really worthwhile.
I saw he got a lot of press on it too, and he really did change his name. I think, didn't he do a video where he went to show how he changed his name on his driver's license, etc.?
I don't know about the video, but he told us lots of stories about what happened and that. So it's pretty interesting that, hey, my name is JasonHeadsets.com. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
In these 4 excerpts, we learned 1. Starting and growing a business doesn't require a category-defining domain name. 2. But buying the category-defining domain name can give you immediate credibility with suppliers and customers. 3. There are creative ways to acquire a category-defining domain name besides simply paying the asking price. And 4. Even though you may have a great search engine placement and conversions, don't underestimate the value of offline marketing and mainstream media coverage in your business marketing plan. The full Mixergy.com interview is available at the URL listed below. In the full interview, you'll also learn how Headsets.com acquired its first customers via print advertising, how the addition of Tootsie Rolls in order packages helped grow the business, why they both sell products and buy advertising on Amazon.com, why diversifying into other areas like airplane headsets did not work for them, how to be gracious with people and ruthless with giving away your time, and much more. If you thought Domain Sherpa had a lot of interviews, go check out MixergyPremium.com. They have more than 1,000 interviews and courses on every aspect of the startup lifecycle, from developing a minimum viable product to acquiring customers to earning your first dollar. I've been a paying Mixergy Premium member for years, and I constantly find ideas that I can use in my publishing and e-commerce businesses. If you enjoyed or disliked something about today's show, please post a constructive comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.